So this government now has an opportunity to improve financial transparency by working with the overseas territories to adopt the same standards as the UK. And the deliberate masking of corporate ownership is used to dodge tax, accountability and responsibility. It inhibits law enforcement and prevents citizens, workers and journalists from holding the powerful to account for their corporate actions. If Labour want bad actors to be brought to heel and stand up for people, both here in our country and globally, this is their chance. They do have the power. The world's top 3 corporate tax havens are the British Virgin Islands, much discussed, Cayman Islands and Bermuda. They are all British overseas territories. Tax Justice Network's estimates that their profit shifting from the UK, its Crown dependencies and overseas territories in total account for nearly a quarter of all lost tax revenues globally, or over 80 billion annually. The continued lack of transparencies in the overseas tax havens or overseas territories, such as the absence of truly publicly accessible registers of beneficial ownership, poses a very real reputational threat to the UK's standing in the world.
On that point, will you give way?
How can we ask others to get their own house in order when we are enabling these entities on UK sovereign territory to beggar their neighbour on a global scale? The UK government bears responsibility for this lack of transparency, as British overseas territories are subject to UK law in certain areas. The 2018 Sanctions and Anti-Money Laundering Act, SAMLA, requires the UK to support these territories in implementing public registers of company ownership, a crucial tool for combating tax evasion and financial crime. More specifically, Section 51 of SAMLA allows the UK government to make regulations requiring overseas territories to establish publicly accessible registers of company beneficial ownership. And if they don't do so voluntarily, we have the power to enforce that. So direct legislation should be a last resort, but it's necessary and we need to move quickly. I mean, 2018 is when SAMLA came into force. What are we now? We're nearly 2026. Just playing for time. It's bad. So since 2022, here in the UK, the Register of Overseas Entities regime requires the details of all corporate trustees in the chain of an overseas entity's ownership structure be registered, and the ultimate beneficial owners of real estate be identified. Information on the overseas entity and the beneficial owners is accessible to all, online and free. Reviewing these top 3 overseas territories, Bermuda and the Cayman Islands now have registers of beneficial interests up and running. The BVI is getting there, slowly, with existing companies being given until the end of this year to file. However, and this is the really important point, none of them have publicly open accessible registers. Instead, there is all sorts of obfuscation. I'll give some examples. Some require legitimate interest, whatever that may be. Access is only for competent authorities or obliged entities. Only possible during the Commission Secretariat's office by appointment with no copying or scanning allowed, on written request, payment on a fee, some limitations during working hours. This is not complying with the spirit of the law, and it is really, really unhelpful, and it's something that is in our power as a country to stop. All this leaves a strong impression of all 3 are doing their damnedest to withhold information, and on such a scale as to make the existence of the registers completely pointless. So, no online fully accessible public access for all, none of that is in place in any of these 3 jurisdictions. Therefore, 2 requests. Please can our government set a deadline, emphasis on deadline, beyond which it will not tolerate a failure to provide open, transparent registers. It must use all powers and leverage to work with these democratically governed territories to find a way to bring these British overseas territories quickly into line with the UK standards of transparency and accessibility regarding these registers. And secondly, Crown dependencies. Now, I understand with his FCDO auspices here today, and that's under the Ministry of Justice, but Jersey, Guernsey, Isle of Man, particularly those 3, I really hope the Labour government will look very hard and very quickly at applying those same standards in the UK to those Crown dependencies. Thank you.